You're too loud, too desperate to explain yourself to people who aren't even listening. That's your problem. You think if you talk enough, they'll understand. If you defend yourself enough, they'll back off. But that's not how it works, kid. The louder you get, the weaker you seem. See? They want a reaction. That's the whole game. They poke and prod, hoping you'll snap so they can point and say, "See? We were right about you." You're playing right into their hands and you don't even see it. Look around. Look real close. The ones who bark the loudest usually got the weakest bite. They live for chaos, feed on it, need it like air, because without it, they got nothing, just empty shells pretending to matter. They build their little sandcastles of lies and watch you scramble to knock them down. But here's the secret. You don't have to. Just stand back, keep quiet, and watch the tide roll in. The truth's got a funny way of surfacing no matter how deep they try to bury it. You think silence is weakness, don't you? That if you don't defend yourself, they'll win. But silence, real, controlled silence, is a weapon sharper than any word. It's a mirror, forcing them to see the ugliness in their own reflection. They'll tear themselves apart trying to figure you out. You don't have to lift a finger. Just fold your arms, lean back, and watch the fireworks. You're wasting energy trying to fix what's already broken. Some people, they got rot in their bones. No amount of reasoning's gonna change that. They don't want to understand. They want to control, to break you down until you start to believe their lies. You give them an inch, they'll take a mile. That's how parasites work. They latch on and drain you dry, leaving you hollow and empty. So cut them off, cold and clean. Let them choke on the silence. Reactions give them power. That look in your eyes when they spit their poison, that's what they live for. Your anger, your frustration, your pain. It's all fuel for their little infernos. Starve them. Smile if you have to. Or stare right through them like they're already ghosts. You don't owe anyone an explanation for the way you live your life. Let them talk. Words are cheap. Actions, though, those leave scars. So stop explaining and start showing. You want to survive this world? Learn the power of silence. Real power doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to prove itself. It just is. The lion doesn't concern itself with the opinions of sheep. You're out here trying to prove you're not the villain they paint you as. But let me tell you a secret, kid. If they've already made up their minds, nothing you say is gonna change that. So stop wasting your breath. Think of it like chess. You don't see the king rushing across the board to prove he's the king, do you? Number, he moves slow, deliberate. Every step, a calculation. Meanwhile, the pawns rush forward, throwing themselves into the fight, desperate and disposable. You gotta think like the king. Let them tire themselves out trying to get to you. Make them work for every inch. And when they're exhausted, when they're stumbling and confused, that's when you strike, but not a second before. See, most people, they're predictable. They want to be heard, want to be seen, want to matter. That's their weakness. You, though, you can be different. You can be the silence that unnerves them, the question they can't answer, the storm that never breaks. You can be the thing that keeps them up at night, wondering, guessing, tearing their hair out, trying to figure you out. That's real power. Not in the noise you make, but in the quiet that follows. It's funny, really, how they dig their own graves trying to bury you. How they expose their own insecurities trying to drag you down. Let them. The truth has a way of bubbling up, slow and ugly. No matter how hard they try to shove it under, you just gotta be patient. Bite your tongue till it bleeds if you have to, but don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you break. Patience, kid. That's the game. Bide your time. They'll destroy themselves, trying to get a reaction out of you. People like that. They're living on borrowed time. Lies, betrayal, fake smiles. It all comes with a price. Sooner or later the mask slips. Sooner or later the whole house of cards comes crashing down. All you gotta do is keep your hands clean and wait. That's the part they never tell you about revenge. The sweetest kind is the one you don't even have to lift a finger for. The one where they trip over their own schemes and fall face first into the mess they made. All you gotta do is stand back, cross your arms, and let them burn. No rage, no outbursts, no desperate speeches, just cold, unblinking silence. You're not weak for walking away. You're not a coward for refusing to play their games. It takes strength to hold your tongue when every nerve in your body screams to fight back. It takes power to look them dead in the eyes and say nothing. Let them think they've won. Let them have their little victories. The real war is long and slow and brutal, and most people don't have the spine for it. You've got that spine. You've taken the knives in the back and pulled them out without flinching. You've heard the whispers, the lies, the accusations, and you're still here, still standing. That says something. Most people would have folded by now, crawled back, begged for mercy, but not you. That's why they hate you, you know, because you refuse to break, refuse to kneel. They can't stand it. Can't stand that no matter what they throw at you, you just keep coming back. Colder and quieter each time. So be quiet, kid. Be patient. Let them keep talking. Keep scheming. Keep digging. Sooner or later, they'll dig their own graves. And when they're buried, neck deep in the consequences of their own actions, you can finally smile, quiet, cold, and satisfied. Because by then they'll know. They'll know that silence was never weakness. It was a warning. That's the thing about silence. They never see it coming. They're so used to noise, to chaos, to people screaming back when they get pushed. But when you don't flinch, when you just stare them down with that cold, unblinking gaze, it gets under their skin. It makes their fingers twitch. makes them stumble over their own words, because they expect you to fight, to scream, to justify yourself. When you don't, it forces them to fill the silence with their own guilt, their own fears, their own pathetic insecurities. That's when they start to unravel, bit by bit, thread by thread, trying to convince themselves they're still in control. But the truth is, the second you stopped playing their game, they lost all control. And deep down, they know it. That's why they keep pushing, because they need to hear you break, need to hear you snap and prove them right. But you won't, will you? No. You'll keep that stone-cold silence, that unnerving calm that leaves them staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering what's going on behind those eyes of yours. Because the loudest screams are the ones never heard, and the most dangerous people are the ones who've mastered the art of saying nothing at all. See? They're betting on your need to be understood, to clear your name, to set the record straight. That's the hook they dangle in front of you, shiny and tempting, hoping you'll bite. They want you to stand there, red-faced and desperate, spilling your soul to ears that stopped listening a long time ago. But you're smarter than that, aren't you? You know that explanations are just traps, little snares disguised as olive branches. The more you explain, the guiltier you sound. The more you defend yourself, the more you look like you've got something to hide. So you stay quiet. You let them talk. Let them spin their little webs of lies and half-truths. Because while they're busy running their mouths, you're watching, waiting, memorizing every slip, every crack, every little inconsistency. That's the difference between you and them. They talk to fill the silence, but you thrive in it. They burn themselves out, trying to be heard, and you're just there, patient and cold, letting them dig deeper graves with every word. Most people can't handle silence. Makes them squirm, makes them uncomfortable. It forces them to think, and most people would rather tear themselves apart than spend 5 minutes alone with their own thoughts. But not you. No. You've been alone with your thoughts long enough to know that silence isn't the enemy. It's a weapon. It's the scalpel that cuts through the lies, the mirror that shows people the monsters they really are. You've seen it, haven't you? How they start fidgeting, start stuttering when you just stare back without a word. How their voices get higher, quicker, more desperate to fill the void. It's almost funny, in a dark, twisted way. Watching them unravel while you're just there, arms crossed, eyes cold, saying nothing at all. That's real power, kid. Not in how loud you can scream, but in how quiet you can stay when the whole world's trying to get a rise out of you. You think revenge is about getting even, about making them hurt the way they made you hurt. But real revenge, the kind that sticks, the kind that haunts them long after the dust's settled, that comes from silence, from walking away without looking back, without giving them the satisfaction of seeing you bleed, because nothing's more infuriating to them than realizing they never mattered enough to break you, that all their schemes, all their whispers and knives in the dark didn't even warrant a response. That's what keeps them up at night, the not knowing, the wondering if you're out there, watching, planning, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. And maybe you are. Or maybe you've moved on, left them to rot in their own guilt and paranoia. That's the beauty of silence. They'll never know for sure. And that uncertainty, that creeping dread, that's what destroys them in the end. They think they've got you figured out, think they've won just because you stopped arguing, stopped explaining yourself. They think silence means defeat, that you've given up. But you and I both know that silence is just strategy. It's the calm before the storm, the inhale before the blade comes down. You're not done, not by a long shot. You're just watching, waiting, memorizing every move they make, every flaw, every weakness. Because when you do strike back, it won't be in anger or desperation. It'll be cold, calculated, surgical. No wasted words, no messy emotions, just quiet, brutal efficiency. And by the time they realize what's happening, it'll already be too late. That's the power of silence. It gives you the time to plan, to prepare, to turn every little slight and insult into ammunition. They'll never see it coming because they're too busy gloating, too busy convincing themselves they've won. But you're patient. You can wait. Because revenge isn't about speed, it's about precision. You've been quiet for a long time now, biting your tongue, swallowing the anger, letting them think they've got the upper hand. But silence doesn't mean peace. It's the pressure building behind the dam, the bullet in the chamber, the knife in the sheath. Just because you're not screaming doesn't mean you're not dangerous. No, it's the opposite, really. The quiet ones, the ones who can take the hits without flinching, who can smile with blood in their teeth. They're the ones you gotta watch out for. Because when they finally do snap, it's not wild or reckless or loud. It's cold and calculated and final. No second chances, no mercy, no long-winded speeches about why they did it. Just action. Clean, silent, and absolute. So, keep your mouth shut. Let them think they've won. Let them laugh and pat each other on the back and toast to your downfall. Smile if you have to. Nod along. Play the part. Because every word they speak, every smug grin and whispered lie is just another inch of rope they're wrapping around their own necks. All you gotta do is wait for them to pull it tight. And they will. They always do. People like that. They can't help themselves. They self-destruct eventually. Just takes a little time and a lot of silence. So stand back, keep your hands clean, and watch it burn. Because by the time the flames die down, there won't be anything left of them but ashes and regret. And you, well, you'll still be standing there, quiet and unbroken, with that cold little smile that says it all. And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Watching them claw at their own throats, suffocate on their own lies, all while you're standing there without a scratch. They thought silence meant surrender, but it was a trap all along. See, the thing about words is, once you let them out, you can't take them back. They're evidence, ammunition, something they can twist and turn and use against you. But silence, that's untouchable. No loose ends, no contradictions, no strings for them to pull. Just a blank space that they can't fill, no matter how hard they try. It drives them mad, not knowing what you're thinking, not being able to get a rise out of you. They need that reaction, need it like a junkie needs a fix, because it makes them feel in control. So when you give them nothing, no anger, no fear, no explanations, it's like pulling the rug out from under their feet. They start to doubt themselves, start to question if they ever had any power at all. And that's when they slip, when they start making mistakes, exposing cracks in their own armor. All you have to do is wait for the right moment to strike. But here's the trick. When that moment comes, you don't strike loud. No dramatic speeches, no declarations of vengeance. You strike quiet, fast, and lethal, like a shadow with a blade. No warnings, no mercy, just a clean cut that leaves them bleeding before they even realize they've been hit. That's how you win. Not by screaming the loudest or hitting the hardest, but by being the ghost they never saw coming. By making them pay for every insult, every betrayal, in a silence so deafening it drowns out their screams. Because the thing about silence is, it lingers. Words fade, get twisted, forgotten. But silence, real silence, that stays. It echoes. It haunts. And by the time they realize what it really meant, it's already too late. You think you need to defend yourself, to explain why you are the way you are, why you did what you did. But you don't owe them a damn thing. Not your reasons, not your excuses, not your guilt. They weren't there when you were bleeding, when you were clawing your way out of the dark with cracked nails and broken bones. They didn't see the nights you spent staring at the ceiling, chest heavy with silence that felt like it could crush you whole. They only see the surface, the mask, and they think that gives them the right to judge. But the truth is, they wouldn't survive a day in your skin. They'd break, fold, shatter into 1,000 pieces if they had to live with your memories, your scars, your silence. So let them talk. Let them call you cold, heartless, ruthless. Wear those names like armor, because they're better than the truth. The truth is, you're tired. Tired of explaining, of defending, of bleeding, for people who wouldn't cross the street to pull you out of the fire. So stop explaining. Stop defending. Let them make their assumptions and choke on them. You've got nothing to prove. See, you keep trying to make them understand, but the truth is, they don't want to. Understanding would mean admitting they were wrong, admitting they were cruel, and most people would rather die than face that mirror. So they twist it around, paint you as the villain to make themselves feel better. But villains, heroes, monsters, that's all just stories they tell themselves to sleep at night. The truth is a lot simpler and a hell of a lot uglier. There are no villains, no heroes, just people, scared and desperate, trying to claw their way out of the dark by stepping on whoever they can. And the sooner you stop waiting for them to understand, the sooner you can move forward without looking back. Let them live in their little fairy tales, with their black and white morals and their twisted justifications. You've got bigger things to deal with than their approval. You know what's funny? They spend all that time trying to make you feel alone, like you're the problem, like you're the broken one. But the truth is, they're terrified of ending up like you, alone, quiet, unbroken. Because if you can survive without their approval, without their validation, then what does that say about them? About all the lies they tell themselves to get through the day? That's why they hate you. Not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to walk away. Because you can live with the silence, while they can't go 5 minutes without screaming into the void, desperate to be heard. You make them look in the mirror and see what they really are. Scared little children, screaming into the dark and hoping someone, anyone, will tell them they're enough. But you don't need that, do you? You've built a home out of the silence. Learn to thrive in it, to wear it like a second skin. And that terrifies them more than anything. It's almost poetic, how they destroy themselves trying to destroy you. How they lose sleep, lose friends, lose pieces of themselves trying to get a reaction. Meanwhile, you're out here collecting scars like trophies, wearing them with a smile that's a little too cold, a little too sharp. You've stopped trying to explain, stopped trying to make them see, and that's what really gets them. Because as long as you were defending yourself, they could pretend they had power. But now they're just shouting into the wind, voices hoarse, hands bloody from beating at a door that'll never open. And you're already miles away, eyes forward, silence trailing behind you like a shadow. They think silence means you've got nothing to say, but they couldn't be more wrong. You've got plenty to say. Truths sharp enough to cut, memories that could tear them to pieces. But you keep it all locked behind tight lips, not out of weakness, but out of mercy. Because the truth is, if you ever really spoke, if you ever really let them see the darkness you've been holding back, it would break them. And maybe, just maybe, you're tired of breaking things. Maybe silence is the only mercy you've got left to give. Or maybe you're just waiting for the right moment to burn it all to the ground. Either way, they'll never know. That's the beauty of it. Of silence, of shadows, of keeping your cards close to your chest. They'll spend the rest of their lives wondering what you really meant, what you really wanted, what you really could have said if you'd ever decided to speak. And when they finally break, when the guilt and the lies and the silence gets too loud to ignore, when they come crawling back, eyes hollow and hands shaking, begging for an explanation, you'll just smile. A cold, empty smile that doesn't reach your eyes, and you'll walk away without a word. Because by then, they'll already know. That silence was never surrender. It was never defeat. It was a warning. And now, it's far too late to heed it. And that's the thing, isn't it? By the time they realize what your silence really meant, they're already neck deep in the mess they made, flailing, choking on their own regrets. They'll replay every conversation, every cold stare and tight-lipped smile, trying to decipher the warning signs they ignored. It'll keep them up at night, eyes bloodshot and breaths shallow, staring at ceilings and cursing the silence that echoes louder than any scream. Because that's what they never understood. Words can lie, but silence is honest, brutally so. It doesn't dress itself up in fake smiles or sweet nothings. It just is. And when you stopped defending yourself, stopped trying to explain, that's when they should have started worrying. But they didn't. They laughed, slapped each other on the back, told themselves they'd won. And now, they've got nothing left but ashes and questions that'll never be answered. That's the real revenge. Not the blood, not the bruises, but the not knowing. The way it'll eat at them, little by little. Every silence a reminder that they never really knew you at all. They'll ask around, whisper behind closed doors, try to piece together the puzzle with bits and scraps, but it won't matter. They can dig and dig, but the truth's buried too deep, tangled in shadows and locked behind eyes that stopped caring a long time ago. And that's the part that'll really kill them. The realization that they were never the hunters. They were the prey all along, and you, with your cold eyes and quieter than grave silence, you were just watching, waiting, letting them think they had the upper hand while the noose slowly tightened around their necks. You see, the best way to destroy someone isn't to fight them head on. It's to let them destroy themselves, to step back, fold your arms, and let their own guilt, their own insecurities, do the work for you. People like that, they'll hang themselves if you give them enough rope. They'll push and lie and twist the knife, all the while thinking they're winning, never realizing the trap's already been set. All you gotta do is keep quiet, keep cold, Let them talk themselves into corners they can't get out of. They'll accuse you of being heartless, ruthless, call you a monster with that wild look in their eyes. And maybe they're right. Maybe you are a monster. But at least you're an honest one. At least you don't pretend to be anything else. Because that's the thing about monsters. They don't need to explain themselves. They don't need to justify why they did what they did, why they walked away, why they left a trail of silence and burned bridges behind them. They just do what needs to be done, cold and efficient, and leave the pieces for someone else to pick up. And maybe that makes you the villain in their story. But who cares? Villain, hero, it's all the same lie, dressed up in different words. All that matters is that you're still standing, still breathing, still moving forward. They can keep their stories, their black and white fairy tales and hollow apologies. You've got better things to do than rewrite the past for people who never really wanted to understand. And that's the difference between you and them, isn't it? You stopped looking back a long time ago, stopped staring at the ruins and the ashes and wondering if things could have been different. You know better. Some things can't be fixed, can't be saved, can't be forgiven. You learned that the hard way, learned it with bloody knuckles and sleepless nights, and the kind of silence that carves scars into your bones. So you stopped explaining, stopped apologizing for who you are, for the choices you made, for the bridges you burned. Because the truth is, some people don't deserve explanations. Some people don't deserve closure. Some people deserve to choke on the silence they left behind. And they will. It might not be today, might not be tomorrow, but eventually, the lies catch up. Eventually, they'll look around at the empty rooms and the echoing halls and realize that they're alone. That every backstab, every whispered betrayal, every little game they played drove away the only people who might have cared. And when that happens, when the guilt and the loneliness and the silence finally close in, they'll try to come back. They always do, with eyes downcast and voices cracking. They'll stammer apologies that mean nothing, explanations that fall flat. They'll tell you they've changed, that they're sorry, that they didn't mean it. But by then, it's too late. You've moved on, built walls too high to climb, and all their words just bounce off cold stone. Because that's the thing about betrayal. It's a one-way street. Once the knife's been buried, there's no pulling it back out. You'll see it in their eyes. That moment they realize you're done playing their game. That the silence isn't a pause, isn't a breath, but a door slammed shut. That they can scream and beg and plead all they want. But you're not listening. You've made peace with the silence, built a throne out of it, and no amount of apologies is going to tear that down. That's when they'll really start to break. Not when you screamed, not when you fought, but when you turned away without a word, eyes cold, and steps steady. Because silence, real silence, is a kind of death. It's the end of the line, the point of no return, the final nail in the coffin. And some people, they'd rather bleed themselves dry than face it. But not you. No, you're different. You've seen enough, bled enough, lost enough to know that some things are better left buried, that some people don't deserve the satisfaction of knowing what they did, how deep the knife went, how long it took for the wounds to stop bleeding. Let them wonder. Let them lie awake, turning over every word, every cold stare, every unanswered call. Let them drown in the silence they created. You've got no obligation to save them, no reason to look back. You gave them chances, gave them explanations, gave them more mercy than they ever deserved. And they spat on it, laughed, twisted the knife deeper with every fake smile and hollow promise. So now, you give them nothing. No closure, no answers, no second chances, just silence, cold, endless, and absolute. And maybe that makes you cruel, maybe that makes you heartless, but it also makes you free. Free from the lies, from the games, from the endless cycle of betrayal and apologies that never meant a damn thing. Free to move forward, eyes cold and spine straight, without dragging the weight of their guilt behind you. And isn't that what they're really afraid of? That you never needed them, never needed their validation, never needed their fake smiles and empty words, that you're better off alone, that you're stronger for the silence, for the scars, for the bridges you burned without a second thought. That's why they hate you. That's why they whisper and point and try to drag you back into their little games. Because if you can survive without them, if you can thrive in the silence, then maybe they're the ones who were weak all along. So keep walking. Let the silence stretch long and dark behind you. Let the bridges burn to ashes. Let the whispers and accusations fade into static. You've got nothing to prove, nothing to explain, nothing to apologize for. You've seen the worst they have to offer and came out the other side, colder, harder, stronger. And that, kid, is all the revenge you'll ever need.